Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing number 16 of the Forgiveness to Love video series. And this one's called What's the Spiritual Lesson? And it's part of my life exposed here. And so here I'm going to share some things that I saw and I heard and I felt and I knew that were like beyond eye-opening. And I'm sure you've all had that experience where you just know something, and it's just, you just feel it in your core, and it's your intuition. And so when I think about things that were eye-opening, I'll tell you what was eye-opening to me today is I was going through and trying to find my videos. And do you know my audience is so blocked that even when I post a video on Facebook, I can't find it. It's not in the news feed at all. The only place that people can find it is if they actually, put in my name and then go to my past posts. But it's not on the news feed at all. And I've had a lot of issues with that. And that's one of the 3 people that have been stalking me for years, if not decades. And so I think this is my sibling interfering in that. And that's really sad that someone would go to that extent to keep their crimes hidden or to block anyone from freely talking about their own life. And so anyway, let's see. We all know that there's darkness on planet Earth, right? And we feel powerless until we understand that it is up to us to create the life that we choose, right? And so, and to move on. And so we created this life to overcome challenges and to become stronger and better and becoming the highest version of ourselves. And it's on planet Earth that we're given the opportunity to make that manifest, which is very cool, isn't it? And so we're learning to love ourselves. And so when we think about life in the 3D, in the 3rd dimension, we realize that we are love. And yet life is a play, and it's like a giant chess game where we see beyond the facade, right? And beyond the actors. And we're here really the only reason we're here is for our soul growth, right? And so we've made this kind of agreement on the other side of the veil with the other souls as to how we're going to play this out and what karma we need to clear and with whom and everything. And so when you think about it like that, you can't really become angered, or you can't really become so passionate about things, because nothing means anything. We're just here to have fun, and we're here to make it. To make this trip here the most enjoyable one ever. And so, as I always say, it's my favorite is we're here to smile, laugh, and giggle. And so anyway, we are here for our soul's growth. And at this point in time in the evolution of humanity and in the evolution of the planet itself, we are able to actually reach heights never before accessible to most of us. So that's quite profound, actually. And so on planet Earth, we're here to forgive when we can understand who we are and who they are, right? And yet, in the interest of oneness, it's not we and they. We are really one, except that when we think about the pitiful behavior of some people on planet Earth, then we realize that they are so wounded and they are so far of a different vibration than we are. Their energetic frequency is totally misaligned with ours. That in fact, we understand that sometimes we have to love from afar, forgive from afar, love from afar, draw boundaries, take care of yourself, and and be in the flow, and don't let anyone steal your thunder, and don't let anyone upset you, or ruin even a minute of your day, because they don't deserve that. This is your life, and it's your creation, and you deserve the best. And so when I think that there are I know, I was going to make 3 points, actually. Well, the first point is that the dark is unawakened. I mean, they're just clueless, right? And so it's like a child that has no clue what's going on. And so you give a child like the motherboard of a computer, and you give it to a 2-year-old, and he has no idea what he's doing, right? So he's going to be banging it and doing all kinds of crazy things to it. And that's kind of what the dark does, because they don't know what they're doing. And they're out of their frustration, they're just creating all kinds of havoc for everyone and for themselves too. And so they engage in criminal behaviors because they are criminals in their minds and in their behaviors. They are criminals, and they perpetrate crimes, which is so disgusting. But I guess you have to have those criminals for the contrast. You have to have the criminals, and you have to have the honest people, and the innocent. And anyway, so when we think of the criminals that can go to any extent to satisfy their addiction for that high of doing something that is totally contrary to societal regulations or societal pressure or whatever, so that they would actually be involved in the deaths of their own family. I mean, what could be more depraved than that? That's got to be, that is sickness at its height, really. And so I can't even imagine it, really. But what does that say about our society in general, and and the people that we surround ourselves with? People that would engage in such heinous behavior are so desensitized that human life is not only cheap, but it's virtually meaningless to them, right? And so, other than it serves that obsession, that addiction, that is totally, what's the word I'm looking for? That is totally disgusting, really. I mean, I can come up with a better word, but really, when you get down to it, their behavior is just disgusting. It's rude. It's vile, and it's shameful. Actually, I think it's absolutely shameful. But the behaviors are so barbaric that they offend to our core. Even the most primitive species are now viewed to be acceptable. I mean, there is not a species alive that would not be offended by some of the behaviors of human beings on planet Earth. I hope I was able to communicate that to you in a way that you understand what I'm trying to share with you. But that's basically the bottom line. And so many of them do it for money. Many of them do it for, again, that kind of that dopamine high, that endorphin high, that adrenaline high. And they do it for fun. They do it for a dare, or they do it for some twisted and sick justification that they espouse, and they think other people are buying into it. And so that's how clueless they are. And so murderers actually murder for money, many of them. And that's certainly what happened in my family. And I also was told that the family had the same plans for me. And so at the same time, I have to remember who I am and who you are. And you are a soul here to experience the life of your choosing. And so to experience your life that you're creating, and not to become bogged down in thinking about what this person might do or that person might do. I mean, they have their own psychopathology that they live with on a not even a daily basis, but a moment by moment basis. And so sometimes they're to me, they're like akin to automatons. They have no concept of what they're doing, and the destruction that they're doing, and the misery that they're creating, not only for others, but for themselves. And so we have to remember that we have to rise above that darkness, and we're here to help, right? We're here to serve. We're here to protect ourselves, and to know that we are enfolded in divine love. And when we remember how connected we are to all that is, we're connected to the birds and the bees and the butterflies and the puppies and the kittens and the piggies and the horses and the flowers and the clouds and the oceans and the sand and all the beautiful the gemstones, the granite out there, just everything that we see is just a beautiful reminder of this glorious planet that we were given a spot to incarnate on. And we are so very, very blessed. Don't you agree? I do. I think it's like so exciting. Sometimes I can't even believe it. And so, nothing that really is not in your ultimate good can affect you, really. And keep remembering that, because it can't touch you, because of course the dark is out there, but you're not going to participate in whatever distractions they throw your way, because one of their distractions actually is that you will get that message in your mind like, oh, you don't have to do it today. Oh, tomorrow's another day. Or, oh, you know what? You didn't start your diet today. Have that cake, or you know what? Have that wine. You can give it up next week. Or you don't have to finish your project. You don't have to go into work today. You don't have to be on time. You don't have to be kind and loving and take your mom to the doctor or whatever, And so that's how the dark distracts the light from staying on their path. And so they'll throw setups at you. Well, I don't mean they'll throw them at you, but it's like, all of a sudden they'll be like this woman. Oops. They'll be like this woman that'll show up and kind of come on to you. And so that'll test your relationship. That'll test your loyalty to your intimate partner, if in fact you have that kind of an arrangement. But yeah, they'll send you distractions and temptations. There'll be lots of temptations. All of a sudden, you'll meet someone who you think, oh, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? And then you realize it really isn't. It's nothing but weeds. But the second point I wanted to make is that the dark has their own agenda, which is to shut out the light. And so that's actually the very reason for their existence, right? And so if there wasn't any light, there would be no dark. Yes. And so the dark souls hide from the light, and they've sold their soul to that dark energy. You know exactly who I'm talking about, or what I'm talking about. But the dark sneaks around, and they work in secret to shut out others, and to hurt others, and to set them up, and to frame them, and to do whatever they can to cause pain, right? And so the third point I wanted to mention to you is that every experience is a test and an opportunity to tap into your conscience. Yes, to rise higher and to be stronger and to love more. And so when we recognize the wounds of those around us and the wounds of the collective, then we can really assess the state of humanity and how much farther we must go for the healing that is necessary for humanity to move forward. And because when you think about it, the Earth is a relatively young planet, right? And it's evolving in every way. And so when the darkness creates misery, they create misery for themselves more than they created for anything else around them. And, you know, when I think about kind of what a rude awakening I had when I kind of moved from childhood to, or from adolescence, I guess, to adulthood. But for me, I grew up in a very loving environment. And I've said this before, but my world was kind and polite and caring and considerate. And, you know, each day my grandfather, my mother's father, would come home from his medical office with a gift for me. And it would either be like a little piece of chocolate or a chocolate bar or something, or an ice cream, or a toy, maybe a purse, or a little dolly or something. And then my mother's brother, who lived on the bottom floor of my grandparents' 3-flat. They had a 3-flat, and so we lived. My parents and I and my grandparents lived in the middle on the first floor, and then I had an uncle, a single uncle, who lived upstairs, and he was doing his residency in Chicago, so he would take the train into Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's, where he was studying. And then on the lower level was my Uncle George, and he was going to University of Chicago and getting a PhD in math. And he and I were like so close. He was my favorite person in the whole world. And he, in fact, would ride the train home every day, and he would then bring me a present too. So my belief in that men, you know, are kind and loving and generous and thoughtful was based on my childhood experience. And then, boy, was I in for a rude awakening. You too? Yeah. And then at the same time, you know, I believe those same attributes were true for women, because I wanted to be very close to my mother and to my grandmother, as close as possible. And in fact, my grandmother, I wanted my grandmother to have her bed put in the same, in my bedroom. And so we had 2 twin beds, and we held hands while we fell asleep. And also my Nana, who was my grandfather's sister, she didn't have any children or any grandchildren, so I was basically it for her. And my mother and I were. And she would come over every day, and she would bring, sometimes she'd bring her, like her lassie dog. It was a collie, and his name was Hector. And she had one Hector after another Hector. And so she would come over, and she would put me to bed every night. And she would sing me songs and tell me stories. And the heroine was always a little girl named Maria, who was always telling everybody they needed to tell the truth. And it was funny, the stories that she would tell me. And she had these long nails. And so as I would lay to go to sleep, she would be scratching my back and rubbing my back. And then I'd be holding my grandmother's hand, and I'd go to sleep. And I mean, it was just, I had a beautiful childhood like that. And And then, boy, did I have a rude awakening when that isn't how all the women that I had met were. But I was the first of that next generation. And so I was very blessed to have so many fawn all over me. And because I represented the hope of their future, right? We want our children to do better than we've done. And so that's what they wanted for me. And it was just, I was immensely blessed. And I had a bright white Angora kitten and cat, I guess. And its name was Fluffy. I know it's not very original, but I was like 3 or 4. And so, so anyway, we were all a smiling, happy, open-hearted Greek family, a bunch. And there was music and food and laughter and lots of people stopping by and bringing gifts and food and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that my grandfather was a doctor. And, you know, times were tough then, and a lot of people didn't have the money to pay for their medical visits. And I think my grandfather took it upon himself to just treat a lot of people and not ask for any money and not have them pay him. And so they would in turn compensate him in other ways. So they'd bring food, or they'd bring you know, presents, and anyway, it was really lovely. And then this is like the drum roll, right? Because the drum roll is the bombshell of a marriage that I got into that, on the one hand, I had no business at all getting into it, and my father talked me into it, but I know that he did it from a loving space. And he just didn't know any better, and I didn't know any better. We didn't know that we were becoming involved with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He was a stockbroker, and you know, my dad needed help investing his money, and so it worked out. It was kind of a symbiotic relationship, but actually it turned out to be more of a parasitic relationship. But you know, on the one hand, I think, oh, I can't believe I did that. And then on the other hand, I think I learned many invaluable lessons during the time that I was married to a man who was basically my polar opposite, because we disagreed on virtually every point that we would bring up. It was all points of contention, and we saw the world through very different lenses. And so, yeah, coming from that, you know, really warm, loving, nurturing family, to being with a man who basically hated me from day one. I do know why. I was going to say I don't know why he married me and why he was so adamant about that, but I do know, and it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with my father and his money market accounts, I guess, and whatever else he had. Anyway, you know, and my family was they loved to study, and we were all readers and things like that. And then here's my, and we'd play classical music and things like that. And then here's my, my new husband, who like loved to scream. He just wanted to be heard. And so I used to think of him as like a blowfish on amphetamines. And so he would scream and yell and intimidate and punch his fist through our New York apartment walls, and we wouldn't get the damage deposit back. And his whole mindset was, I'm going to get you, and I'm going to tell anyone anything I want, and they'll believe me about you. And I just didn't even, you know, I was but I was pretty innocent and naive. And I just didn't even understand what that meant. And so here's a story for you. Well, we lived in New York after the honeymoon, and we used to go to this little Italian restaurant. It's like a cafe, and they had alfresco seating, but we used to mainly eat inside. And they had the cutest Italian waiters, and the food was so good. And it was like a family environment. It was very upscale, but it was like you just felt the warmth there, and the food was delicious. And so the waiters would always like bring us extra little things, or little appetizers from the chef, or little desserts and things like that. And so if the waiters would pay me too much attention or whatever, and they were just doing it to just be kind and to do their job well, right? And so it was a husband at the time. He would say, "This is the last time, I'm going to bring you here," and other stupid threats like that. But actually, one thing that he did do is we were having dinner. We were in the middle of having dinner, and we were having this argument, and which we usually did have arguments. And so he all of a sudden stood up from his chair, and this restaurant was packed, and he stood up and he said, "Maria, I can't believe that you would do that." And I'm just sitting there like, "What?" And he said, "I can't believe you would do that." And like he was like acting like he was crying. And he said, "And you called my mother a pig." And then he was like, if she gets sick, I want you to know it's all your fault. My mother is so kind to you. She loves you like a daughter, and this is the way you treat her. This is how you repay her." And then he says, "And how do you repay me? And I walked in on you having sex with my best friend. This is what you do to me." And like the people in the restaurant are just like, I think that they're either like, they're just confused, thinking, "Oh, well, you know what? There are a lot of New York aspiring actors that are working as waiters, or that are in the restaurant business or something." And I wondered if they thought it was like a show, if they thought it was like the scene to a play, because it was so ridiculous. And everyone's eye was on us, And after he had finished this theater, I mean, he was quite good at it, really. He really should have gone into acting. And so he sat back down, and after everybody kind of, stopped looking at us and they were concentrating on their meal, he whispered in my ear and he said, "See, I control what anybody thinks about you. I can tell them anything and they'll believe it." And so that is what many of us have been going through. And so I tell you that story just because you can kind of visualize it, instead of my just saying that, someone else can say whatever they want and it will be believed. And that's why there's so much malicious gossip out there, and there's so much defamation, and just the malignancy of people who want to destroy the reputation of others is it's boundless, seemingly boundless. And so, needless to say, I got the hell out of there as soon as I could. And so I decided I'm not going to stick around and go to medical school here. So I flew back to Chicago and started law school. And I said, I've got to get out of here. And then the whole bit. The reason why the reason why I ended up having a child and going to night school for law school after the first year was because I was slowly being poisoned, and so I was getting very sick, and they were wondering if I had multiple sclerosis or what diseases I had. Anyway, he later admitted to poisoning the food. He later admitted that to his attorneys, and I think to his therapist. But also, we lived in Lincoln Park across from the zoo, it was just beautiful then. And he would open up the windows. We lived on the 21st floor of this beautiful high rise. And he would open up the windows and he would do the same thing. You know, he would just say, "Stop hurting me," or "I can't believe you hit me," or what else did he used to say? Oh, he'd say, "Oh my God, you threw my mother's special vase and you broke it." You know, it just ridiculous things. It was so much drama. And so that's what, you know, there are so many now channels about narcissism. And we deal with all of that, don't we? And we don't even know what it's called, or we didn't. I used to think it was just that he was rather psychopathic, but it's what is it? 1 in 4 individuals is a narcissist or has narcissistic tendencies, and I don't know if they can be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, but they certainly behave like a narcissist, right? And so, and because they sabotage others. And so instead of looking at themselves and trying to better themselves, they just want to cut other people down. And what is that saying? It's, you know, if you're so busy looking behind you as opposed to in front of you, you're not going to get anywhere, because forget the people behind you, forget the other people, just focus on yourself and become the very best version of yourself. If you spend so much time, you know, with your neck and your head craned backwards, you're not going to go very far, except maybe you might be hitting a brick wall is what you might be doing. But, you know, the whole Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, it's all about the mask falls off. They can't sustain that level of acting and of theater for very long. And so the real person comes out. Sometimes, though narcissists can keep that facade for a very long time, and yet eventually it cracks. And so we just have to be mindful and not stick around all that long once we see those red flags, right? And so sometimes, you know, we experience things that are so foreign to us like that, and that are so repulsive to us like that. And we have no option but to open our eyes, right? And understand the depth of the human experience that we are being blessed to enjoy or to witness. Or, well, you're not witnessing an experience, you are experiencing an experience. But it's what we can see the contrast between the light and the dark. And then we get to choose. What is it that how do we want to roll, right? And so we have to remember that we are all children of God. We are all children of the universe. We are children of our Creator. We are children of the most powerful energy ever. And so it's, we are children of the divine. We are divine, right? And so we have to remember that the most divine blessing is us. We are the blessing. And we are always protected, and in all ways, always protected, and in all ways. I like that. And we are connected, and so we are made of the same energy that the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, everything in the, you know, in the celestial arena is made of the same thing that we are made of. We are, some of us are, they even talk about some of us being star seeds. I'm not sure what that even means yet. I should do my homework and look that one up. But I think that's a beautiful thing, because we are made of such a divine energy that, look, we are animated. We have the most glorious bodies, and that function so perfectly. And I've said this before, until we abuse them, right? And so we have so much to look forward to when we first awaken and we open our eyes in the morning. You know, the first thing to do is just to say thank you for this new day, and for all that I'm going to experience, for my joy, for my greatest joy. And so on that note, I'm going to I'll end this for now, and I am so glad that we got to share this time together. And in the next video, I'll give you more of the details, because I don't want to lose sight of what I believe what my purpose is here, which is to really explain the things that we need to protect ourselves from, and the things that how we can reframe things and be strong and take care of ourselves and forgive ourselves and love ourselves, because we are on a journey of self-love. And so when we can love ourselves and take care of ourselves, then nothing and no one can touch us. And that's what we want to be. We want to be unstoppable, right? Okay, and so I just want you to know that I thank you for tuning in with me today, and I love you, and I am so happy to be with you. And so I wish you a beautiful day. Mwah.